let's get more reaction to Microsoft's quarter and bring in Jason Snipe, principal at Odyssey Capital Advisors. Microsoft is among his top holdings. Jason, great to speak with you.
Thanks for having me.
The conference call is going to start in about 20 minutes' time. If you could, what question would you ask Satya Nadella?
So it's a great question. I think for us, one of the things that we've evaluated when we looked at, what we've seen thus far is, part of what you've already mentioned, the year-to-year growth on the cloud, their cloud business, which I think is very important. At the end of the day, we're looking also as well as their market share. So they own about 18% right now of the market share in the cloud space, a solid number 2, behind Amazon. So for us, I mean, that's been the focus. That's where we see the opportunity, and they're a vertical for them as they continue to move along along their journey in the cloud space.
This is, as we mentioned, your largest position, Jason. So I'm wondering if at any point do you start, or have you trimmed your position just for out of portfolio management, and also given the backdrop of potential uncertainty and volatility going into the elections?
So absolutely. I think one of the things that, Microsoft is a legacy name for us. I think trading $1.6 trillion mega, market cap, trading at 37 times earning, which we of course agree is a bit pricey, but when we look at the multiple expansion that we've seen, particularly in the tech space and obviously in Microsoft, I think it's somewhat justified in this low interest rate environment. So, I mean, time will tell. But I think for us, it's a stronghold. We're not adding any more capital to the name right now, but we're kind of seeing how the election and the headwinds, I should say, with COVID-19, the resurgence of the virus, as well as lack of stimulus talk at this point. So it's a stronghold right now.
Hi, it's Steve Grasso. So quick question for you. That's exactly where I was going to hit. What would make you, A, add to this position, and B, are you nervous under President Biden that the cap gains tax will double? Does that get into your psyche about when to sell your tech?
It does. I think it does play a role, because what I have looked at, post-election is what are the bipartisan issues, and kind of looking towards the cyclicals, because I think for us, it's really the some infrastructure spending that potentially might happen. And we do think that the fiscal stimulus will happen as well, which will kind of turn us away more towards some of the cyclical names in material, industrial, and then also some of the consumer stock names. So I think those will be the catalyst for kind of reallocation of capital at this point. So that's how we're kind of looking at the markets right now from a tactical standpoint.
Jason, great to speak with you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jason Snipe of Odyssey Capital. And quickly, Guy, let's say you had the ear of Satya Nadella. What question would you ask him when the conference call gets underway in 15 minutes' time?
Is he concerned about the enterprise spend? I mean, Tim, I think, addressed it as well. I think everybody said it in different ways. But, what is the environment going forward? Or is SAP specific, or does that portend negative things moving forward in the entire space? That would be, I would phrase it differently, but that would be the question I'd ask.
Yep. Again, conference call, 15 minutes time. We're still awaiting guidance, so this will be very key to the action in the after-hours session. Sticking with tech here, big deal news out of the chip space today. Advanced Micro Devices buying rival Xilinx for $35 billion. AMD says the move is part of a broader plan to expand its popular data center business. So here's the question. Did AMD just deal another big blow to struggling Intel, which had trouble specifically in the data center business? Tim.
Well, I don't think the data center business for Intel is mortally wounded. I think the bigger issue are the outsourcing questions. And, Foundry, for example, we should expect an answer for that maybe somewhere in the next few months. So, I think, it's truly on the manufacturing side that I think Intel is challenged. I think the core business and the data center business is doing fine. I think this deal is about AMD. Yes, they talk about the synergies, the complementary technologies, and the cost savings. It's also a company that's using an expensive currency and spending $35 billion in an all-cash deal for a stock that's up 60% since July, was up 160% last year. I mean, this deal makes tons of sense if you're an AMD shareholder and for that management team. That's what I think, but I think Intel's got to fix their own problems.
Yeah. Grasso?
Yeah, so you started off with the data centers. Obviously, if AMD's data centers are a better number and Intel's are weak, then they're definitely stealing business there. And Intel has been plagued with delays on its new line of chips to begin with. So at AMD up 70%, would I rush in? Probably not, only because of where my stance is on a macro basis. But with Xilinx, as Tim said before, they have really deep relationships in aerospace, in telecom, in industrial. Those are things that AMD might have had a problem getting to, and now Intel is not there as well either. So I think to add this up, if I on a macro level I have a problem with buying tech right now, but on a granular level I'd rather be an AMD than Intel, and that was not a would you rather myself.
Of course it was.
It was. But Pete, go ahead.
It was.
Absolutely.
Well, of course it was. Hey, here's what I would say. I would say that, quite honestly, Intel has been struggling. To Tim's point, I mean, their execution has been awful. And I'm saying this as a guy who owns the stock, and it's frustrating to me. And this is the second quarter where we've seen some of these issues. The data center is one of those areas where they're also struggling. That was the growth area. That was propelling Intel, and it's really not at this point in time because it's slowing and they're getting beat up. And now AMD makes a great move because it opens up, and Steve was just talking about some of the different businesses, but it's also data center, and that's a problem. And then you look over at the $40 billion deal where ARM Holdings was bought by NVIDIA, and you see a lot of competition going into a space, and you just start to wonder, is Intel going to slip even further? That's the questions I have as an Intel holder right now, because my concern is they've had 2 quarters in a row where they've had big missteps. Stock has pulled back again. Now it's even pulled back a little bit further than it did last quarter. And you just wonder, are they doing the right thing? Have they been able to react to come back? And I have not seen that yet. And meanwhile, we're seeing their competition make moves that's definitely going to hurt them in the future.
NVIDIA, ARM, Pete had mentioned, Guy. We also had, Analog Devices, Maxim Integrated. Now we have AMD and Xilinx. And if memory serves me, Guy, 2 Power Lunch stock drafts ago, you said Xilinx would be a great takeover target. Ooh. So given this wave of consolidation in the chip sector, what is the next target?
Oh, that's NXP. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. You put me on the spot with that one. I can't answer it. I can't answer this, though. And I'm not going to make any friends saying this, but it comes down to management. It's sort of like in the NFL draft. The aggressive GMs move up in the draft to get the player they want, and other people sit back and wait. Intel's the GM that's sitting back and waiting, and nothing is coming to him. And Lisa Su is the GM that's moving up in the draft to make acquisitions. And they're crushing Intel. I mean, just look at the ASPs, the average selling price year over year for data center and Intel. It's a disaster. I mean, that's the word I used a couple days ago. I'll use it again now. And in the would you rather game, even though AMD's had a huge run, I would rather AMD here still. And I think Barclays just slapped a $100 price target on it. So I'm in the Lisa Su AMD camp for sure, Melms. I'm sorry I didn't answer your acquisition
Do I
question.
exist as an anchor, as a host of this show? Why is self-would you rather? It's just absolutely infuriating on a Tuesday. Tim Seymour, who has his hand politely up.
Yes, absolutely. I raised my hand and I follow orders. And Mel, could you ask Guy who won the Power Lunch stock draft last year?
Was it Tim Seymour? Seymour Alpha?
No, it wasn't.
It was not.
It actually wasn't Seymour Alpha.
It was Syndergaard. It was Thor.
If it's not going to be me, it's going to be Noah Syndergaard, and I am very happy, very proud of Noah. Very proud of Noah.
Gratuitous Thor mention. All right.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.